Hello everybody, welcome to another of our APPI Learn by Doing webinars. Today we will be focusing on the remote viewing session and entanglement with the future. When we do remote viewing with the intention of seeing the future, precognition, and describing it, it really becomes about entanglement. Now, why do I begin? And I will be talking more about this because it is absolutely critical to the remote viewing session to really get deep down inside you that precognition, accessing information from the future, actually begins with that future. In our case, when we do a remote viewing session, we see the outcome at what is called feedback time during a feedback session. So whatever it is we're trying to describe, we know the truth in our future feedback session. And so it's critical to realize that it is this entanglement that's going on with the remote viewing session and the feedback session. Precognition truly begins with the feedback session in this information world that we're embedded in. Now, in linear time, of course, what we do first is, and we will be doing that today, a remote viewing session, and we'll actually be doing a judgment on it in a way you will understand, as this lesson goes on, to make a true prediction. And there will be two possibilities. We're going to be doing a prediction, a yes-no prediction. But by doing the entanglement with the feedback session where you know the truth about the target photo site that you will see there, and the photo site is like a photo but much deeper. Your consciousness will actually go to the place where the photo is taken, and it can pick up the sounds there, the smells there, a lot more than just colors and shapes that you might get out of a 2D photo. You get senses of size of things. All of your senses are working, which is one of the remarkable things about precognition and consciousness. And so it's all about this entanglement with the feedback target. That's one of the primary messages which you're going to actually be doing and living shortly. Now the cue that we always use is really very simple. Describe and sketch your, and we use 6-digit numbers for what are called coordinate. It's similar to like a coordinate on the planet Earth, except this is a coordinate that attaches you to your feedback target. Okay, so it's not a spatial coordinate. It's a coordinate again in this informational space that we live in, a place of information, and it's tagged to a very specific target. We're actually going to be doing, as I said, the remote viewing sessions, judging sessions, and then I'll be asking you to actually email copies as attachments of your session so we can discuss them. And in these classes, we've been doing predictions which are like a month or more ahead, so we won't get the feedback a month ahead. But as you'll see, that doesn't matter. Time doesn't matter, which is one of the beautiful things that precognition is teaching us. So, precognition begins with the feedback session in the future. Now, I bet you didn't really get a good look at that. I'm going to show it again very quickly. Okay, now you saw that. It's like a flash. You saw it in present time, and what I wanted to do was to show you the kinds of things that people do when they don't even see that much, and they generate what's called a transcript using remote viewing. So obviously totally blind to this photo site. Okay, this happened to be a particular target with this coordinate associated with it. And you can see what I call the subconscious, some people might call it a higher mind or whatever, but it's something much bigger than your normal intellectual, physical self. And you can see they got the fact that there's movement, feeling of falling, picking up lots of different things. And all they do to get this information is basically open themselves up to it, realizing that you can get it from the future, and you do it. You don't think about it. It's totally non-intellectual. It comes from the right brain, not the left brain, using that simple model. Okay, they saw a cloud, smokestack. You just see this is just a really excellent session. Not 100%. There are a few things that are probably off here. Sphere, circle, oval, egg, though you've got that. Look at the sketches that they got here. Rather remarkable. Okay, I just want you to get a feeling of what we call a hit, a really good match looks like, and that they are usually just like this, a combination of words that come up from your subconscious into your conscious mind, and then images of one sort or another. Sometimes they are much simpler than this. Okay, I want to show you another one now. Okay, I'm doing this flashing because sometimes that's how the stuff comes in. You'll get a little piece of it, and then you put that down on your transcript. This is a simpler version. The only word here is falling, sketches, pretty simple sketch, and yet this is all the person got. This person actually usually gets more than this, but for this one, this is what they got. Went down twice, didn't get any more, and yet you can see that this is also a good match. So remote viewing sessions, everybody develops their own style. I'm going to show you the style for the newbies that I'd like you to start with, but over time some people just change their style. Okay, you know, how did they do this? You want me to tell you? I don't know. They don't know. Intellectually, we do not understand that. I'm going to have more to say about that. They're models, but we don't really understand it. Now, associative remote viewing, which is what we're doing here and what we'll be doing today, again, the statement precognition begins here, but in linear time, we start with remote viewing with this intention to do our precognition. I just can't overemphasize that. The intention to entangle with the truth. The tasking is very simple. Describe and sketch your coordinate. And we're going to get a coordinate shortly. You know, one of the reasons I am being so repetitive here is because I've been doing this for many years, and it seems that no matter how many times I say that the target is the feedback photo site, getting it deep in your gut seems to be difficult. People will describe something that happened in their lives, for example. so setting the intention that the target is this feedback photo site, the thing you see there and nothing else, becomes critical. People will do what we sometimes call displacement, where they'll go to something else. Hey, we're human, we're not 100%, but at least be clear that if you're doing that, you're not following the task and the cue. Okay, now I want to talk a little bit about what physicists, what people who have thought so hard about this in the past have said about this whole idea of consciousness. And I connect it to the physics because I think, as you all know, quantum mechanics, which goes back over 50 years now, and was very controversial at the time, had issues of observing measurements, and it had to do with consciousness. These guys were forced to think real hard about this issue of consciousness. And here, Schrodinger, who, in fact, his name's associated with the key quantum mechanical equations, said consciousness cannot be accounted for in physical terms, for consciousness is absolutely fundamental. It cannot be accounted for in terms of anything else. And of course, what are we using when we do our precognition? It's this thing we call consciousness. Max Planck, another one of the key guys back there, said, I regard consciousness as fundamental, which happens to be the theme of our conference in Vegas. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness. We cannot get behind consciousness. That's why I say, and many others say, we are basically living in an informational world where consciousness works with information, and what we see as a physical world, and it is an objective world. Most of us agree on most things with it, not taking anything away from it, but it's not as fundamental as consciousness itself. Science, and this is also from Planck, science cannot solve the ultimate mystery of nature, and he means us, life. And that is because in the last analysis, we ourselves are a part of the mystery that we are trying to solve. So we may never intellectually solve this grand mystery of consciousness, have equations for it in the normal sense that we solve things as we currently understand, physics and science. However, we can learn much about consciousness by direct personal self-awareness. And that's what we're doing. We are right at the cutting edge of learning about our own personal consciousness and how it can be maybe shared with society and things like that. A few more, but this begins to connect up with the spiritual. And I'm just very clear that the non-physical, something which I'll call the spiritual, is down at this fundamental level. And here again is Schrodinger, and he says Vedanta, which is an Indian Hindu tradition, that consciousness is singular. All happenings are played out in one universal consciousness, and there's no multiplicity of selves. The oneness, when you come right down to what is the most spiritual concept in my mind, the deepest one at least, is this idea that we're one. Everything is connected. We are one. There's no separateness, and that's what he's saying here. That's what the Vedanta says, and the Tao of physics discusses this. Tao goes back, and this is a Chinese tradition. There are Kabbalah, Hebrew traditions, even the mystical Christians have this deep spiritual understandings when they begin to think about this uh, more and more. So I wanted to make that connection here, at this deep level, and now we'll start to get more practical. Okay, here we are. Now let's talk about what we're going to do. I'm making this transition, but I don't feel like I should make it this quickly. What I've just done for you is what I think is the essence of remote viewing. And this whole class is about the remote viewing. Getting deep in the gut that there's a non-physical world, a spiritual world, a world of information, which is entangled with the past, the present, the future. Everything, everywhere is all entangled together, is the essence of remote viewing, and I think in many ways it is the essence of spirituality. Okay, so let's look at a prediction that's going to be a month or more in the future. Right now we're in the middle of the NBA National Basket Association. Anyway, basketball. As you could tell, I'm not really a big sports person. What I am is a big associative remote viewing person. So I'm always looking for predictions that we can do. Usually we do them a few days in the future, but for these we're doing a month in the future. And here's a particular prediction. Will the Golden State Warriors win the NBA championship? And there are odds out there that you can wager where the yes is, and I'll talk a little bit more about this after we make our prediction, but they are basically saying that if you were willing to, and everything scales here, but if you were willing to put up $255, you could win 100, plus you get your 255 back. So this is the favorite that yes, they are going to win it. On the other hand, if we were to predict no, you could put up $100 and win $206. So you could put up 10 and win a little over 20. So there are bookies out there, bookmakers, who will do this, and this is a clear yes-no question. Now we've been doing this for quite a while. It started with a prediction of Hillary Clinton. Will she win the U.S. presidential election? And we did this, I guess it was like 9 months before, 8 months before the election. And we predicted a no, and that was really seemed highly unlikely, but we got a hit on it. And then we started doing others, which are listed here. And you can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 hits and 1 miss. So that's 4 out of 5. That's 80%. Not statistically significant, but at the month level, at least early indications are this is at the level of the best we do with our good and best remote viewers on 50-50 propositions, 80%. A lot of them will do 70% or more for, extended periods of time. Now, so here's our prediction down here, and we'll just keep doing that in general. Now, the thing about what we're doing is called binary associative remote viewing because they're two sides. We often do this where the two outcomes, the two sides, might be in financial markets where it's up, down, or down, up. Side one could be up or it could be down. The association of the words we use with side one and side two are completely random. It just doesn't matter. Again, I'm now talking, it will be for a little bit more at the intellectual level because we are both intellectual and intuitive beings, and the intellect is part of us, and integrating those two together I think is a big part of the challenge. We do sports predictions as we're doing here, but it might be about a team. It might be the total number of points over what the bookies say are going to happen or under. It might be a favorite or underdog where they give them points for those of you who follow sports. But you can always put this into an equivalent yes-no question. Will Team A win? Will the stock market go up 1% before it goes down? That sort of thing. And so here's the list again. Now, this idea of having the harmony between the intellect and the intuitive, I really think is very important. You want your intellect to get to the point where it says, yeah, you know, this precognition really is kind of neat. It's a great thing. Yeah, maybe it's a little bit surprising based on the way I was raised, but not only does it happen, because I've now seen examples, you know, the fact that you're listening to this says you have a sense of it, but it is something which is out there all the time. It is not unusual. It's not paranormal. It's normal. And the intuitive part of you is what does it. And it's that harmony. It's knowing when to quiet the intellect and let the intuitive come in, and vice versa, that gives us the life that we have. The cue, told you, very, very simple. Describe and or sketch. You want to get this in deep again into your gut. Not only intellect, but the subconscious needs to get this. And of course, by doing it over and over, it'll become a matter of course. But for your newbies, you describe and sketch your, and we'll come up with this coordinate shortly, feedback target. That's you're going to see in the future during your feedback session. So the TRN is transcript reference number. This is just the tag that will connect to the actual truth point. I just add, every time I do these a little differently, but this one I love because I really believe it's more important than most of us give credit for. And that is, when you're doing your remote viewing session, go in feeling good. Feel happy. You know, like that's an order. If you can't feel good about going into this, and the same thing with your feedback session, don't do it. That's my opinion. But I really believe emotions, positive emotions, are an important part of this. So getting involved in this work, enjoy it. Now, the intention part, again, this is where entanglement comes in. The intention part is both at the remote viewing session, and you need to know that you're also going to intend not only to connect backwards with your remote viewing session, but to improve in the future. We're in this not for one time. We're in this for the long term. It's not 100%. We have good edges over chance. All of you, if you stay here and do enough of these, and if this is your first session, there's a lot of beginner's luck. Your first session might be fantastic, but the fact of the matter is you want to be in this for the long term. Now, the other part of this is expectation. When you do your remote viewing, you're not only intending to describe and sketch your feedback target, but you have, as much as you can, to set up a positive expectation. Be confident that indeed you will get a good match with your feedback target. And then also that becomes part of the long-term expectation that you're just simply going to get better and better, and you expect to get better and better. So expectation is another important part of that. Formally, Joe McMonagle is probably the best known public remote viewer in the world, and We work with him a lot. He comes to our conferences, does predictions there. They're incredible. And Ed May, who's one of the premier scientists that goes all the way back to the days with SRI, he was the second guy in charge of the program at Stanford Research Institute. They've concluded what is clear, at least to those of us on our long-established team, is that intention, attention, that's the new word here, and expectation play an important role in the success of both application and research of remote viewing. So we've talked about attention. What are you paying attention to? As you're doing your remote viewing, what you're paying attention to is your own conscious mind, your reactions to that, your emotions to it, what's going on in your personal consciousness. Just paying attention to it is an important part of the whole process, because you will learn from that. That's interesting that came up, that sort of thing. Children, now, it's interesting because, they aren't into any of this intellectual stuff at all, but they just seem to have a natural passion and joy for life, for their consciousness. They are paying attention. Hey, even though they're not really conscious of intention, when they want to walk across the street, they just do it, right? And they expect to get to the other side of the street. So this is sort of a natural state. And one of the reasons I bring up children is that initially, when we do our transcript, I showed you a transcript with words and sketches. The words that tend to come up are, I don't want to say simple, but they're the kind of words that maybe a 5 or 6 year old would know. The subconscious has those words deep in it, and it seemed to be able to communicate them into the conscious mind. So they're not the big words like the name of something. It won't give, I can't even think of an example of a big word. Bank of America. It won't say that. It might very well say building. It might say big. And here are kind of examples, and I'm certainly not going to read them all, so hopefully you can see them and you can read them. But the words are, like the sounds that might be at the site: banging, booming, buzzing, ringing, those kind of sounds. You get textures. These are the categories which come up, the colors, the smells, the tastes. Now, so this is what you ought to kind of expect. This is the normal way that in most people the subconscious communicates. But everybody's experience is unique to them, and that's what you pay attention to. What's your experience going to be? Okay, how do I start? Well, everything that we do here is really internet-based. We've made it as user-friendly as possible, and as we do it here, and I'm going to do it as representing each of you, but then each of you, if you don't already have an account, we'll easily set you up with an account so you can do just what I'm doing here. And it begins with the email, and everything goes through our server. So let's do it. Okay. So it begins with the email, and generally we are organized in groups, and so the group manager will set up the tasking. So I did that already, so I don't have to do it there. And here it is. So I set up this tasking, which I hope you can see. I can make it a little bigger. And this is typical. The groups, we have maybe 10, 12 of them now, have their specific names. This is a webinar workshop group. The transcript is due today, the 26th, so it'll always give you a due date on that. Here's the event. Will the Golden State Warriors win the NBA championship? And then it says when, okay. And then all you have to do, some of these, they put in the time and the due date. And then, again, user-friendly, all you do is click on that link, and what comes up is a WE page, which WE stands for Winning Entanglements. That's the nature of this protocol. We have some groups using other protocols. I'm going to put in my email address. You, of course, would put in your email address, and people get unique targets based on their email address, and they'll also get a unique coordinate. But here I'm putting in mine. Notice webinar workshop is highlighted. We're going to do one coordinate, two coordinates, I would say, is for the advanced people. Some people love to just stay with one coordinate, and that's fine. So we're going to do one coordinate now, and this is it. So this is how you get your coordinate. It's that simple. There it is. Now, 756672. Get out a sheet of paper, and right now on the top, write this coordinate, because all of us are going to be doing this coordinate, which is not the same as in the group. So you're going to do 756672. And I recommend say it out loud right now, even as you're writing it down one. You're setting up, not memorizing it or anything like that. You're setting up physical vibrations. When they teach remote viewing in the military, they would have them say things out loud. It's a using all of your senses sort of thing. And guess what? During your feedback session, you're going to be saying it out loud as well. So you've written 756672 down. The next step is going to be to do your session, and then you would upload it. So obviously that has to happen after you do your session. And notice I say start your RV session when you feel good about doing it. Get in a good positive place. Okay, let me just do a little bit more and then we'll start. But what I want the newbies to know, and if they wanted a sheet like this, just email me and I can show you where you can get this and print them out. A lot of people like to make their own. That might be a little different. But what this is you should have the coordinate up here now. Put your, and say it out loud, put your name and date and time up here. And everything below, like a line like this, is all preliminary. You're getting yourself ready to actually do your transcript. And the transcripts will consist of words and categories like this: the textures, color, smells, taste, dimensions, sounds, dynamics. You have a sense of movement, temperatures, aesthetic impact, and feelings. Emotions are an important part of this, and you could pick up the feelings, emotions at the target site, at the place the photo was taken, at the time it was taken. The first thing that usually comes up, and it usually comes up in the form of either words or sketches, are the big picture stuff. When you see your feedback target in the future, okay, when you entangle with it, when you interact with it, and send that information back, if you will, to remote viewing time, your first impact is going to be what we call a gestalt. It's your first big picture impression. And It may be water, if there's a lot of water on the side. It might be a mountain. If the side is dominated by the color red, you might say, oh my, red. It's just first impressions. And sometimes you might get, 2 or 3 of these gestalts might come up if there are 2 different kind of big picture things going on. So again, that's something you might expect. Again, they go with the simplistic kind of words. Now, all of this starts with writing the coordinate again and a little doodle. That's called an ideogram. A lot of people are saying it may be more like a pictogram. There's a lot of discussions on this, from what you're going to do today. If you're brand new, write the coordinate, say it out loud under the line. This will be after what we're about to do, which is called a cool down. And quieting the mind, you write the coordinate, and you just let your physical body do something which at one level looks like it at random. However, the fact of the matter is it has lots of information buried in it. And then the words and sketches and stuff will start coming up. So the only other thing I didn't discuss here are what are called AOLs. One of the really beautiful parts of the remote viewing and precognition adventure is that you begin to be able to make a distinction between what's coming from your subconscious mind, if you will, your deeper self, your higher self, something non-intellectual, versus what's coming from the intellectual. When you're doing remote viewing, you really want the stuff from the subconscious. It's able to connect up with the future. Your intellect, forget it. Your normal self isn't going to be able to do that, and you know that. So that's, you're quieting that, keeping enough of that around just so you can write words and sketches, but you want to listen to your subconscious. However, your intellect is around, and you might get the color red, and you might get the color round, and then suddenly you're going to get ball. But you don't know it's a ball. It could be a tomato. But you get the sense that your intellect told you that. And so you write that over here, and you put it down. You try to put everything that comes up into your consciousness down. And putting it down here is so important because it then releases you to get more information. So you get quiet again. You might say the coordinate again, or not. Just get quiet. It's clear what your intention is, and more stuff will come up. Okay, the cool down is very important. Joe McMonagle thinks that it's 75% of the discipline. Now, why does that make sense in our context? It makes sense because you're cooling down to quiet the intellect, quiet the normal chatter of the mind, the day-to-day stuff that's going up, quiet that down, and open yourself up to entangling with the feedback target at your feedback session. And that's what you do during the cool down. Now, I'm going to start with the intellectual here, and then we'll get into the cool down. But I want to do this because at least I'm recommending something which is working well for me, which is, I believe, the way the universe actually works in terms of consciousness being fundamental and yet connecting up with us personally in the physical world. And you can use that during your cool down. And this has to do with something that physicists really agree on. The Fermilab and others, all physicists agree with this idea of a quantum vacuum. They use quantum foam. And in this video, he will talk, and he does talk, and you won't have to listen to it, but you can. Nothing is really something. And that comes from the idea that what we used to think was empty space, vacuum, in the very, very big, between our galaxies, we used to think there's nothing. But that's not accurate. Quantum mechanics has demonstrated, and this is not controversial, that at the smallest levels, no matter where you go, inside the galaxy, inside your body, into what used to be empty space, every point you get smaller and smaller, there's large levels of energy going in and out. That's why they call it a quantum foam. In and out, but huge amount of energies per unit volume, which are at the same as when a nuclear explosion goes off. So it's as much energy as you can imagine. However, it's relatively uniform. And what matters is the variations in those energies from point to point. And a lot of people think this is where communication goes on. There are people who are talking about examining codes on how this all might work down there. Amazing. But down here is where it all starts, okay? And I happen to believe this is the interface between the non-physical and the physical at this very, very small level that is everywhere and every time. Now your nervous system is huge compared to these point things that we're talking about, and it has both a large sense to it. I love this. The nervous system is more than 90,000 miles. However, that's if you were to stretch it out. What's more interesting, frankly, is that the width of the nerve cells are measured in things that are called microns. That's like a millionth of a meter. And the space between the neurons, called synapses, are measured in nanometers, a billionth of a meter. Your body really is working at the very, very small level. It really is. Even in the physical sense, there are things called microtubules, thousands of them in each of your cells. You have your DNA in every one of your trillions of cells. These are very small, but they're big compared to what's going on in this quantum foam. And if you can just get a sense of your whole body connecting up with the spiritual, with the non-physical, through this quantum foam, and begin quieting your intellect, because you are both a physical and spiritual being living in both worlds, okay? But the communication that you want to do comes from this subconscious mind. Okay, get out your piece of paper. We'll get calm, begin to quiet our mind. We're going to pay attention to what comes up from your subconscious to your conscious mind. Here, to describe and sketch your 756672. Say it out loud. Now, in this video, which is here, in fact, if some of you want to listen to it, Let me see if I can put it in the chat box. Hold on. But even now, you should be stretching, quieting down a little bit. You might take some deep breaths. Okay, I've put in the thing if you want to listen to that. Some of you may just want to be quiet and do it on your own, and that's absolutely fine. The cool down becomes very unique to each person. What I am going to do, let me find that. Um, okay, wait, I have lost my big screen, sorry. Okay, so it's 1.5 minutes of listening to this guy talk about quantum foam, and then 8.5 minutes of hemisync. So why don't you guys start now, and in 10 minutes I will bring you back.
Follow that idea a little
You have about a minute left. You might ask yourself, go down and get one more perception. Okay. Why don't you all write either end or EOS for end of session on the bottom of your transcript.
Hello. Really glad you could join us. And this webinar is really focused on the newbies and a refresher for
Okay. You guys back with me? Okay, good. Okay. The next step, why don't you just y'all generate your transcripts okay? I wish I could see you and talk to you and do all that good stuff. Okay, but you are there. We're still connected. Someone say something in the chat box. I'd just like to make sure we're still talking to each other. Okay, good. Okay, I did a look. I didn't do a session. I did a look at some of the comments. So let me, I liked the comment about the children is certainly right on. They've got it. I did want to clarify a question about the Hillary Clinton. The actual tasking was, will Hillary Clinton win the next U.S. presidential election? And I suppose in some ways you're right about the definition of win, but I think it was pretty clear that it meant electoral votes, but maybe there was some vagueness in that. And it is important to be very clear when you do the tasking on what the question is. Let me see if there was anything else I wanted to respond to. Oh, I don't know what those muddled words were, but I hope the cool down issues were clear. Okay. Farusa, yeah, usually the cool down is different people take different lengths of time, but 2, 3, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, but when you know you have 10, 2, 3, 4, and then it just feels right to go ahead and start. And Jonathan, let's see, I naturally gravitate to completing the cool down. And then both of you turn off your mics and stuff. I would love you to do your sessions. And we're going to be talking about judging with other people, and then you can join us after that. So I would actually suggest you do your remote viewing sessions, because then we can talk about them. And since this is about remote viewing, why don't you go ahead and do that? So, and we'll now go ahead and do the next step. The next step is this analysis judging step, where you will basically get, and we're going to do this right now, 2 choices of possible targets. Remember, this has got nothing to do with the remote viewing or the feedback session. This is when you make a judgment which is then involved in what you do with your question. You might want to wager on this question. You know, there are other questions where you might want to do different things. So we're going to match the transcript to 2 possible targets. Okay, now how do you do that? Well, again, everything we do, right, is online, and let me get back, if I can, to here, which was over here. So remember this page. This was one we did which led you into doing your RV session. And the RV that you each had, normally you would do browse, you take a picture of it, and most people nowadays know how to get it onto their laptop, desktop computer, or some people are now actually just doing it all from their smartphone. But there's always a way of taking a photo of your transcript. We then get that on our server, and the group manager, in fact, can look at it in terms of making a group decision. What I do is I just put together a dummy transcript that lets me get through this step. So that's what I did now. And then, and again, so that's simple. Now you, with your transcript here, would hit submit, and we're about to get the 2 choices. Okay, there you go. What I suggest you do, especially the beginners, is look at each element in your transcript and mark it with an A, a B, an A and a B. Sometimes there are things which might be in both. There might be the color blue here and here, so that might be an A and a B. For your sketches, mark even pieces of the sketches if they're really good matches with either an A or a B. If there's no match at all, just leave it blank. Now, all of that is so that you can ultimately come up with what we do with this page is we give it a confidence ranking from 0 to 7, which was put together by Russell Targ from Stanford Research Institute and some others. And it's a 0 to 7 system. So, you know, based on how many A's and B's you have and nothings, you're going to get a sense of confidence on how well you matched either photo site A or photo site B. And 0 and 1 are no or little correspondence. 2 is basically chance. I mean, come on, if all you got was the color blue and maybe one other match or something like that, you could have gotten that by chance. You certainly don't feel that you would made psychic contact. By the time you get to a 3, you're now saying I've got a mixture of correct and incorrect elements, but enough of the correct elements to indicate that you're doing this very personal fashion now, made contact, psychic contact through my subconscious with the target. There's, you know, enough, and also remembering when it came in. The feeling is you're right on the margin, even though there's a lot of incorrect, but yeah, you made it. That's a 3. A 4 is good correspondence. You now feel really comfortable that you had psychic contact with several matchable elements intermixed with some incorrect information. Now, he tried to make this understandable, but it's still vague, and a lot of people have trouble deciding, is it a 3 or a 4? 3.5 is okay. That's one of the options in that box, and we consider 3.5 to be wagerable. 5 is like on the margin. 4 is really good, but if you put a 3.5, what you're communicating is that you would be willing to wager a few bucks on this, that you think it is wagerable. So then, so 4 is good correspondence. They get to 5, and the words get even stronger. Unambiguous, unique, matchable elements. Unambiguous, unique, matchable elements. Well, what does that mean exactly? I don't know, but it sounds pretty strong, right? Certainly unambiguous, that it clearly goes to A or B, but not both. Certainly has to be unambiguous in that way, but also unique in the sense that it's pretty special to that kind of target, that class of target. I mean, it's not going to be unique to all targets in the world, but it's a higher level. This is very, very strong. This is good. This is exceptionally good. And so that's a 5. And then a 6 is good correspondence, but now some of those analytical overlays where the intellect got involved, where you might name the function of the target or name the target itself, that's a 6 with relatively little incorrect information, and a 7 is basically spot on. So, I know some of you who have been around are already doing this, and that's fine. And please send your transcripts to me, because we'll be talking about that next. But for newbies, I want to make another point about marking your transcript. And in many ways, I can make that point best by telling you what analysis judging is not. So we have a skeptic here, okay? One of those super, not going to believe it no matter what skeptics, and his attitude is what you do not do as a judge. So I alone know the contents of this envelope. So here's our remote viewer, and it says it's a charcoal drawing of a woodchuck eating a small orange. And then the skeptic says, nice try, you little fraud, but that's a long way from an ink drawing of a beaver versus woodchuck eating a tangerine, a small orange. One of the really, at least I find it really interesting things about this work that we're doing, getting into precognition and consciousness so much, is you learn so much about how your communication channel between your subconscious mind and your conscious mind works. And it's often not literal, it's often not exact, but it's close. This word entanglement has so many different levels to it, but there are entanglements where you might not get the right animal, for example, but you'll get the sense of an animal. You'll get a sense of even the right size. And often your consciousness will work by analogy to other things that are in your mind connected to what's at the target. So, finish doing the judging, and then okay, let me see if, yeah, after we do the judging, right. Okay, it was unclear to me, sorry. Yeah, well, I'm sorry, I obviously did not make that clear enough. In fact, the cool down part, but as I say, don't suffer with it, just do your remote viewing session. And yes, I'm going to re-show the pictures so you can do your judging, and I'm going to put the TARC scale on at the same time now. So that's my next objective here. So we've got this. And let me see if I can get the TARG scale on here as well. So you should be marking your transcripts, and when you mark them, when you mark them, put the 0 to 7. Okay, I will do that. In fact, let me get the TARG scale up on here if I can. Okay, so here it is here. Let me see if that works. I probably should just copy it and paste it. Or does this work? Okay, so here's the judging. You've got your transcript. You now see the two pictures. Go through each element in your transcript. So that would be each word, each, I don't know, part of a picture. You know, the pictures usually have different elements to them. And put an A, a B, or an A and a B next to it to the extent that it's a match. And you're doing that so each element should have next to it an A, a B, an AB, or nothing if it's not a good enough match. But again, this is where it just needs to be kind of reasonably close. And that's a judgment. That's why this is called analysis judging. Do you think that could have come from did come from your subconscious? So that's the A-B part. And then in this box, I'm going to do it for the group, but you would do it for yourself. You would then do a 0 to 7 scale based on this, where 3.5 is the first time you said, you know what, I got a good enough match that I'd be willing to wager a little bit on this. And then the 4 says really good correspondence. 5 is excellent because it's got the unambiguous, unique matchable elements. And then 6 or 7 bring in the AOLs. And what I'd like you to do is in the chat box, simply put an A and then your CR number, and then you might do the same thing even on the same page with a B if you want, or separately as you do it. But you know, a B and then a CR number between 0 to 7. And I'm keeping a table of those, which we'll look at the end. And don't pay attention to anybody else's. This is very personal, and you just do what you feel is correct. And then do take a picture. Do take a picture and send it to me, because that'll be the next thing after everybody has done their judging. Okay, so let me get these in here now. Okay. Yes, Mike, and element by element at first. So what I'd like you to send me is your transcript with A and B's on it. A next to the elements that match A, B against the elements that match B, and some elements won't match either. And that's where the judging and analysis comes in. You have to make a judgment. Was it really from my subconscious? Because the matches, you know, that element matches, reasonably well. Oh, good. I'm glad you did your session and you're judging now. Ferruccia. Okay. 2.5. I don't know if Mike and Lila did sessions, but if you did, just do an indication of the two different ABs. Okay, John. Let's see who else. Very good. Okay, this is cool.
Hi, Marty. For the newbies, can you either give the email to send it to or a page link to find out how to upload it, please?
Yeah, email it to a.com. Okay, so you should have that there. And somehow you just need to get it to a place on your computer where you can access it, because that page that had here, oh, I guess I lost it now, but wait, maybe I have it. No, I lost it, but you should have on your screen the page that says download or upload, and you need to get that off of your computer. If you can't figure out how to do that now, we'll be able to talk about that later, okay? It's one of those things that most people have learned to do because we take so many pictures in this day and age.
Marty, can you expand the photo sites for a few seconds each? Is it possible?
Yeah. Okay, let me go full screen on that. How's that?
So if you click on photo site A, doesn't it give you a bigger picture, or is it just the same?
It won't be as big as that. You can.
Oh, okay.
But I doubt if, well, I can, you want to see photo site A up close.
Oh,
well, wait,
or
we can do that. It does click. I mean, you want to make it really huge.
Okay. Oh.
Oh, you are seeing stuff. Okay.
Can you do
Now
B?
just don't get too emotional about it though, okay? Remember, you don't want to make
Of
this
course.
an attractor, right? Yeah, let me do the other one for you.
I had some elements on my B side, and I couldn't verify it until I saw a larger,
Okay.
because I can see what's going on in there now.
Yeah, no, that's great. No, I'm glad you do that. If other people have requests like that, please This judging is important, and I may even be wagering on this. Okay, but now let's get this back so people can see both. Though hopefully most of you are done judging, I think. And if not, just continue to do the judging. Okay, let me just see if I've got all of them in here. Or where is page link? No, you have to send it to my email address by first uploading it. Okay, let me see if I can find that other page. Oh, here it is. So this, you have this page. So you need to browse and find it on your computer. So you have to get it to one of your computers. And usually that's done by emailing it to yourself from your smartphone. At least that's what most people seem to do something like that.
Yeah, that's, for me, that's the easiest way. I take a picture with my phone, and then there's, as soon as you touch the picture, there's a way to email the picture directly to your email. Pretty seamless from a smartphone.
Right. Okay, but it looks like I've now lost the two pictures. So in fact, why don't I, no, it wasn't this page. Hold on, it was the browse page. Okay, well, here, I'll show you guys something else. It turns out if you go back in here to the very beginning, you know, you've gone away and done it, you can just go in again, and you'll get the same coordinate again. And then I'm going to browse, just like you should be doing, but I'm using my dummy one, of course. You need to find your real picture. And then I do submit, and back come the same pictures. So, you know, you can go away and do your session and then come back, and you'll always go to the same place. Okay, so I think I have, okay, very good. Jonathan, did you give me your A and Bs? Okay, so let's, too late, I'm just listening. Sure, that's okay, Murphy. Hey, you know, this is all very casual. We're in this for the long term. No, the page, when you do this, the page will be live for you. So you will be putting in these numbers. It's not live now, but when you go through the process that we did here, that I did, I was representing you, it will be live. Okay, so let me see. Okay, so it looks like Ramel was the first one, so let's look at his. Okay, and you usually have 2 pages. There you go. Okay, so notice Ramel, very good. You gave yourself a 6, let me verify, and a 2 for A. So here, okay, well, you know what, Ramel, if you've got a mic, and I think it's good, you know, relatively quickly because we have a lot to do, but go through and give us a summary of like other things that might have come up as you go through the A and B. So go through your transcript, but pretty quickly, and why you judge it the way you did.
Sure. I judge the A and B on the first one dotted. I think that's more like the texture, but the snow also is dotted, and it's fine, it's dense, there's plenty of them, multiple atmospheric. So I find that more connected to both A and B, because the A for me is like it's very dense when you look at the texture of this. Is that the church or something? The structure. I find that there is the shapes of the arches are more connected to the A. My usual process of like, if I see some structure, it's usually I see the square, which is like container, a contained thing. There's also some metallic structure, actually in both of them. I That's both metallic structure then, but I think
We
more
try to
on the
make them, for the audience, we try to make them as different as possible and with some unique elements that you can find, but they're always
okay.
to match. Go ahead.
Yeah, so in terms of the person there, that I see that
Yeah,
basically a bee,
right.
and which is like doing something. On the second page, if you can scroll down, the element of the very fine, elaborate, archy kind of three-dimensional element, pointed, peeking upwards. I think that's more on the A side, and I also label this as decorative. The circular thing is the A component, the A for the side.
Wow, yeah.
The dome shape, like as you see down there, heavy, dense, smells fresh, man-made, solid. That really looks
Yeah.
more on the A part
Yeah.
with those arches as well. And then on the last figure that I have, it's pretty much just the A part, which
Yeah,
is like
it's clear
the
you
multiple
came in on this. Yeah,
aspects.
it's really
Yeah, and I summarize it like it appears that several housing, structural, or buildings, beautiful architectural design of colossal proportion,
Mhm.
this serves as a function for people to gather and meet. So I find that
That's
as a
beautiful.
space.
Very nice. Very
Thanks.
nice. Okay, I noticed just one other thing I wanted to comment on, which atmospheric might have been more like an A. Multiple would have been both, I guess.
Yeah,
But that's okay, Vermel. Thank you very much for that, and I cannot quarrel with a 6 is very good, but this was obviously very good, and your summary was clearly right on, and you have a lot of unique matchable elements in there. So, okay, let's go look at the next one. Let's look at Sandy. Okay, I think I should be able to make that bigger at least. No. Okay, let me make it bigger this way. Okay, Sandy, why don't you, I'm going to turn this around, but why don't you start telling us about this? I can make this vertical. Okay, do you have a mic or a chat box? Or maybe you had to leave, but let's take a quick look at it. Since I've done this much. Rotate. What I'm doing is, and I guess you can't see this screen, but I'm rotating this image so you can eventually see it. I'm having a little trouble here. Okay. Okay, so I don't know, where is
What were the CR scores for this?
Sandy's? Yeah, let me get those. Sandy scores.
She's typing in the chat box.
Okay.
Oh, she okay. She
I
didn't
didn't
score it.
score it. Okay, so let us score it. John, you and I have done enough of these, and Ramel, let's take a look at this, and we'll go through as if we were, it's a little bit hard to see, but I look at the shape as one of the first things I actually always look at. Shapes are just not intellectual, when they come up from the subconscious, so they're good. And I would put an A next to that. Maybe you can read these words for us. I see blue. I think that's rainbow.
Mm-hmm.
Sandy, you thought of a bear. Well, that's interesting because this would be closer to the bear, right? And that happens a lot. That's why a lot of people pass. I see children, charcoal.
I see clear sky. That would be an A.
Yeah.
Um,
Would be both. The arc, the shape, again, is A. I think, I would, I can't quite read everything, but based on this, I might give an A a 3. I'm not sure I'd give it a 3.5.
sure. Yeah, it's a 3 for me
Yeah,
as well.
okay, you'd agree. In fact, let
Mhm.
me put it down here. So Sandy, in our table, I'm giving you a 3, and then maybe a
2
2. Yeah, okay.
would be.
Okay. So that would be it. Thank you, Sandy. And I'm glad you did your session. And, you know, I think the judging, hopefully you're a little clearer on, you would mark it. But nothing was really strong enough there to go up to the 3.5 level. Okay, John, let's look at yours. Okay. So why don't you, again, go through yours quickly, the highlights that made it a 5 in particular.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny. Romel and I are always opposite, almost always.
And and don't, and not always, but almost always, but don't, I want people to kind of get that. Both of Ramel and John are very good viewers. They have good records. They're not right 100% of the time. As a group manager, they get to look at a lot of these. There's almost always something on the other side. I don't know why that is. It may be that there's some sort of sophisticated balancing going on. But okay, go ahead.
Well, as you can see, I labeled photosite A as a 2, so I'll just focus on why I went with B.
Good.
I kept getting turf, like some coarse material that was kind of making a sound as you push your hand across it, and that when I saw the snow on the guys rubbing on I'm like, okay, that's it for sure, because it was making that sound. It wasn't necessarily the texture. And then I got orange. I got a couple of the colors that were in there. Green, orange, white, black and gray. I don't usually count those, so I just label them because they're almost in every photo.
Right.
Junk food. See, junk food was a miss, and warm, sunny was a miss, in my opinion, because I can't verify any of that. Clearly, Site B is not warm and sunny. But, so first thing I did was my ideogram up at the top right, and that was clearly a subject every time. And then my personal ideograms, if I have that long tail at the end, that's the B component. That means there's a subject and motion, both. So that's the first thing I put in that straight line in the middle, subject and motion. More than one subject, obviously. It's a competition, and there is adrenaline involved, and people are trying to win, but it wasn't like a fight. So this was a race, obviously. So this is actually a sled race, if you can see it, a dog sled race.
Mm-hmm.
And so I put running, motion, speed as an element. And then down at the bottom, for me, this is very, very important to at least write something in the session summary, because it helps you collect and focus what you're actually thinking this was. And for me, this was multiple subjects in a competition wearing sports attire like a race, where speed is an advantage. And then the race stuff and the competition is why I moved it up to a 5. Some of the other elements, or some of the other data was actually incorrect, but I sort of nailed some of the more important ones and the overall idea of it. And also my ideogram, I didn't get anything to do with the structure, which which I would have. That would have helped me judge A a little higher, but
Right.
I clearly only got B data.
For the newbies, let me discuss ideograms just a bit more. There are some that seem to be universal. When you do squiggles over time, and now that I'm even saying it to you, you will probably do this. This is like the universal for life form. For some people, and again, you learn this yourself because when you go to the feedback picture, ultimately you'll connect this and you'll say, oh, over and over again, I see this as a life form. For some people, it's a human life form. For other people, it's just animal, but not plants, but it becomes personal. What John said about this being motion, I don't know if that's universal. I don't think it is. Other people in this might do something which looks like a structure. The rectangle shape seems to be a universal for structure. Notice he didn't get anything like that. That's why, he feels that it's not photosite A, because he didn't get any sense of a structure at all, even in the ideogram, nor in any of his words to speak of. And of course, that's the reason he gave it a low mark. Okay.
Let me say one thing on the ideogram real quick. The B component, the tail at the end of the subject, that is not universal. I actually learned that through lots and lots of ideogram practice, that's what my subconscious is trying to tell me when I see that. So now I know, to label it.
And that's a beautiful example of expanding, opening up, widening the communication channel. When you're doing a remote viewing session, you're opening up the entanglement with a specific target. But every time you do one of these, one of the objectives, one of the things what you're doing is you're teaching the language between your subconscious and conscious mind. And you can see that John specifically went through that process and learned this about himself. Thank you, John. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so let's look at this one like this. Let's see if I can get that and this up. Okay, Jonathan, you want to tell us quickly what you did here? It looks like a lot of A's. And I see, yes, you gave this a 5. I didn't see any score for a B, but for now, do you want to talk about it, or I think it's good.
Yes,
Go ahead.
can you hear me, Marty?
Yep, we hear you.
Oh, okay, excellent. This is Jonathan, and yeah, I got a lot of impressions of like one of the A's is hexagonal. I got sense of these shapes, like these really complex shapes, and so I just wrote down a few things that I saw there. For the photo site B, if I were to score it, I'd maybe give it a 2, maybe. I don't know if that's appropriate.
Yeah, that's okay. And I should tell you all that when we have multiple people do independent judging on the same pictures, there's differences of one's kind of standardly. So this is true judgment. They're not always going to be the same. Okay, so keep going.
Yeah, if I could. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I think it's pretty clear to everyone about A. But what I'd like to get feedback from yourself, Marty, and some of these other folks that are more experienced, because I am kind of a newbie, about my ideogram. Does anyone have any comments on that?
Let me bring it up here.
Actually, I was going to ask you about it first. Do you have any feelings about it? Does it mean anything to you?
Well, I'm unclear on it. I'm kind of new to ideograms. I have had some ideogram practice, but I think if I had to make a judgment on it, I think it's leaning towards A, just because in the middle and towards the end of it, there's these little kind of rectangular sort of motions that may indicate a structure of some kind or man-made. It's hard for me to say.
Yeah, I agree with that. Do you ever probe your ideogram with your pen to ask a question and then touch your pen to it and see if you get any words from it?
I haven't done much of that. I didn't do that in this case. I felt kind of rushed for time a little bit.
For everybody, let me just explain that. So what you would do during a remote viewing session now is you've got this and you got words or whatever, but you might go back and say texture and click a certain point. You might click the point at the end there that might have some significance and just click it and more info. Dimension, because Ingo Swann, one of the really important originators of this, used to say all the information is buried in here because it comes quickly and then you're decoding. So that's another viewpoint which might help some of you. What is this first word that you got here?
First word is enigmatic.
Oh, enigmatic. Got it. Okay. Okay.
I suggest that you retrace your ideogram, and like what John said also, is to probe it, and then, write it down, like what's the movement, where it's like the target's opening up right away, so you want to just capture it as much as you could.
Okay. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
And what happened to my email? Did I close it? I closed it. Okay, so we did Jonathan. Let's do Lynn. Okay. Okay, Lynn, 2.5, 3.5. And
yeah, it seems like I got kind of almost even for both. My pictures that I drew seem to indicate A, but the other things seem to indicate B. So colors.
What did you take this one for?
Well, when I did my ideogram, I felt like people immediately. I felt like there was a group of people.
Okay.
Awesome.
And I wrote that up there, people, and then I was kind of stuck on pictures, so I just kind of did that loopy thing to try to get my pen going.
Mm-hmm.
That to me like indicated people. And then the first color that came was white. So,
so that's B, of course. Yeah, good.
Yeah, but then the other colors, of course, kind of go the other way. Textures, woven, soft, nothing too much. Cold, I did temperature, and it felt really cold. Usually I kind of get warm or medium kind of feelings, but I definitely got a feeling of coldness.
Okay, that's important. Let me just say here, because it just so flashed, I see blue and aqua here, right? You marked it as A because of this, but this is clearly blue here.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm saying that is so often at feedback time, let's just say, I don't know what's going to happen, we don't want to get emotional. This is where a lot of people claim they get displacement because we've seen good matches to both. That's baloney, just an excuse. Only matters is what happens at feedback time. But imagine if at feedback time you say, oh my gosh, I don't know how I missed that. And there might be other things like that in here. The judging phase, many people think, is the most difficult part, if you will, of remote viewing. Because, hey, when you do a remote viewing session, you're a witness. You listen. You let stuff come in. When you're feedback man, you play up this picture big time, and you would always find something like blue. So I'm just pointing that out. That's all. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. Then I'm looking down for like sounds. I heard musical, and then I put chime, and I'm wondering now if there would be a chime, like a bell chime or something with picture A. It's hard to tell.
Mm-hmm.
The feelings, going down to the feelings or aesthetic impact, I got this feeling of, like Jonathan said, it was kind of like this, like the man in picture B. He was like, oh, oh, oh. It was kind of like, I put birdie, chirpy, but it was like popping, or it was something like a, hard to describe kind of thing. So I kind of associated that with B. The most interesting aspect to me, that's kind of one of the last things I do. I ask myself, what is when I find out the real photo, the target photo, what would be the most interesting thing to me? I got colors, and then I got fingernails, like with white fingernail polish. So that kind of went with B, like, you know, maybe his hands are really cold, turning white, and there's white snow. And then when you cued us, he said, okay, can you get like one more last precept? I went up to the yellow. It was kind of like yellow. I wrote the color yellow, and it was kind of like a curve. And that's kind of like maybe the tent and photosite V coming out of that side there, because I hadn't put the yellow color there before or something. I don't know. But like I said, all the other pictures were kind of like photosite A. To me, the Twin Peaks, the cotton symbol, the round symbol with the 3 different little things in the middle, the other things. And then over on my AOLs, one of my AOLs was like a balloon, something like that.
What was this? You wrote waterfall, but did you see this shape?
Let's see, what shape?
I'm marking it here. You see it?
Oh,
Right
no,
under
that
waterfall.
was, I think when you were talking about how you were saying something about a nuclear bomb or something like that. I thought, oh no, and it got in my head. I thought, I want to declare it. I want to get it out. So I drew a little picture and wrote down nuclear bomb.
Oh, I see. That was earlier, and it came up again. Okay, because that looks a lot like a person. It also
Yeah,
looks
it
like a
does,
nuclear
yeah.
bomb, but okay, that's why I asked.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. I think in terms of judging, I couldn't disagree. I think, I don't know, this end is so strong with the white and the cold and the temperatures that if you had gone to a 4, I certainly wouldn't have objected. So
I agree with that too.
yeah. Okay, very
Yeah,
good. Thank you,
that's a
Lynn.
4.
What's that?
That's a 4.
Yeah, you see.
I agree.
that's a 4 too. Yeah, we all.
You for that ideogram and the last one where it's the what's that? It says people and then something under it. That's the exact ideogram when I get when I have more than one person. It's at least 2 squiggles or more.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and there may very well be other people around, though you don't know that.
They're in the background, Marty. You can see the other campsites right behind it. That's why you expanded the picture for me.
Oh, so you can see that. So it is indeed a race. Okay, so the rule about photo sites is your consciousness goes there, but its task is to describe and sketch what can be verified or easily inferred from the photo. Okay, because that's all you can do as a judge, right? So, and so in this case, John is saying the people is really, really good because there are clearly other people around. Okay, thank you, Lynn.
Okay, thanks.
And, okay, Leslie.
Marty,
Uh-huh.
on hers, the frying an egg, that's almost identical to the drawing that I did of the round window. And to me, that building, you know, she wrote down Santa Fe Balloon Fest.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've seen pictures of balloon festivals with the different balloons going up in a group, that building could look like that. So I think she shorted herself on A little bit. Because
Interesting.
the frying egg looks exactly like my drawing. I thought it was maybe a mouth open or you were looking down in something, but
No, I
it's
get
almost
that. And a
the same
top
drawing.
a top view here would look like a frying egg. You might even say this is. And that's why judging has its own set of challenges unless they're up at, 5s and 6s and that sort of thing, then they become pretty easy to judge. And that's the objective, is to get it so the judging isn't an issue. However, it often is. So thank you for that comment. And maybe it should have been a 3. Again, we differ by 1 often. Okay, so let's look here. This is, was it Leslie?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good. And you're here, Leslie. So why don't you,
Yeah.
let me see what you did. You gave a 2.5 and a 3.5.
Right, which I think are the same as Lynn's.
Mhm.
I'm a real newbie, and I've only done this a couple of times before, so I did not do an ideogram. I know it. I remember hearing about them, but I didn't do one.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Not everybody does.
I immediately got moving air, like the hand motion. That's with that squiggle in the middle, the big marked B, that big circular, lots of loops.
Right.
That's very much his hand motion in B. Very much that, and I felt the cold.
And you
And a
felt,
small object moving fast. It was a fast motion, so that would be like him rubbing his chest.
did you write cold? Is there cold here someplace?
I said ice, yes. Later down I said possibly ice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Very still, like glossy surface of lake, possibly ice.
Yep,
So
right there.
all the snow in the background, and that was very vivid. I got the blue. I'm going up the list now.
Mm-hmm.
I got very bright light and glare. Bright light is in both of them, but the glare from the snow and the ice to me was much stronger in B.
Okay.
I got one it felt like a cannon shape. It's the best way I could describe it, but it wasn't a cannon. And it was sort of the round end of the cannon. I didn't write it, but it had the circle in it. So I didn't grade it because I didn't mark circle, although that's what I saw. So that could be A, the cupola on the top, and there's a circular window there. It was also, I got it's kind of the curving motion.
Yeah. Okay.
His body to me, the body shape feels something like sort of what a cannon would be, but it's not.
Right.
It's elongated shape. So I don't know how accurate that is. But,
Yeah, I think you got it, and I'm so glad as a newbie you're jumping in. I find this possibly ice, you know, strong. One of the things we have to be careful is to not light it up now and make it an attractor. But the motion, and you said you wrote cold down here, possibly ice, but you said you were feeling cold here?
Yes.
I mean, okay.
Right at the top, immediately where that the loops marked B was definitely a motion, and it was cold, and I felt the air moving around it.
Yeah.
And the air was cold.
You see, that's the other thing as a judge. There's a magnitude to the match. In other words, it's not just B. And sometimes when I do my judging, I might make a big B just to emphasize that point. Again, you're doing this to get the feeling of how good is your match on each side. And so there's, like the color blue by itself, it's okay. In fact, I do just what John does with black. I kind of ignore it. It's hard to find a picture that doesn't have black in it someplace. But when you get something that feels really good as part of the judging, you note that. So, I certainly don't have any problem with 3.5. Again, I might even go to 4. But see, I might be ignoring this arc is obviously pretty good, and I don't know what you felt when you did it, if you felt the building. This is as close as it comes to structure. So I'm fine. That's great. I have no problem with that. Leslie, thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a great seminar. Thank you very much.
Okay. Let's go to Donna. Okay, very good, Donna. Why don't you, talk about this a little bit? Let me see. I want to do that. And right, okay. So you gave the A of 5. But why don't you talk? There's always stuff that comes up that you never quite get in there, the strength, the feelings, the stuff like that. Or did you just give yourself a 5 because there were so many A's?
No, actually, I did kind of feel it was a structure, but yeah, who knows? Any given day, right?
Wonderful.
Oh, that's funny, Marty. So yes, good morning. So the ideogram, usually when I have like a square type object, it tends to be a structure. And then the Gestalt, I kept seeing like rectangular planks type shapes that were anchored together. And then immediately after that, I saw red and triangles and pyramid shape as well. And then off to the side, those planks kept seeming like they had an opening, almost like I kept getting like, I don't know, like a clamshell is what it kind of reminded me of, where they opened from an angle like a mouth or something. And then, again, rough and plank-like, felt like that building. Chirping, oddly enough, I don't know where that came from, but more like the sense of birds around, which at a temple, I guess, could be the case. The dome shape that I have there, it felt like there was step-like structures coming off of it, and if you look down below, not the main dome, but below where they have the smaller domes, you'll see the small kind of step-like design that comes off the top of them. And I also just felt like there was an ambient temperature, and then my overall sense of it was that I was in an open space that was surrounded, which in my mind's eye was kind of like a courtyard, but after seeing the building, it could have certainly been like a cathedral or a church or a temple where you're in a big open area inside of it, but you're surrounded by walls. So as soon as I kind of saw that, I knew what I meant about open but surrounded.
Okay, I want to, why did you make this one a B? I mean, with everything you said about the rectangles and everything.
I don't know, except for when I saw that backpack, it felt like, and I wanted to throw that object away. That's why I kind of put it up, the arrow over to the AOLs. But after I saw the backpack, how it's kind of bound together, that blue backpack, and it made those kind of, I don't know, that kind of pattern. But yeah, it certainly could have been part of the building. That was just my first instinct.
Okay, and Donna, please don't take what I'm about to say in any way personal or wrong. Listening to you, you got to a point where you really felt it was this one, listening to your words. And that might be because that was really the strongest feelings you got. I mean, I'm looking at this here, and that could be the backpack as well. Again, if this turns out to be the right one, at feedback time, you're going to say, oh my God, that my feelings of the backpack about it, I really ignored during the judging. And you might ask why. On the other hand, if this turns out to be the right one, you're going to say, hey, terrific, that my feeling of that and the fact that I went to that was just right. We don't know, but I'm just pointing this out to sort of educate, hopefully everybody, a little bit on the judging and the complexities of it. And it is very intellectual, period. So, for just the reasons you sort of marked this as a B, I can see that could be a B. But also all these A's that you put in, they make sense to me. I don't know about chirping. Your feeling was that there were birds going around here, but chirping could be the noise that other people said they picked up here. I don't know.
Yeah, and I thought that was interesting after I'd marked it that people that were in the B side, were hearing the chirping.
Exactly. And so I just wanted to share my thoughts with you. That's what I do here. So I just shared them.
Happy for them, Marty.
Okay, good. Okay, Donna, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, got Evelyn. And then let me make this small again. Okay, Evelyn. I see you have an ideogram. It looks like it just got cut off. Are you there?
Yeah. Oh, I guess my scanner cut off the tops of
Yeah,
things.
that's
I
okay.
didn't
No
realize
problem,
it.
obviously. And
Um,
4 and a 2. So let me put that here. I didn't have you here.
yeah, the ideogram is kind of has a square thing to it because so I kind of and it has a triangular thing. So I think the ideogram definitely indicates a building. I'm still new to ideograms, so you
Yeah.
know I draw one and they're different each time, but that one definitely related to the building.
Yep.
And
Okay.
let me grab my let me look here. The my first gestalts were feathery, furry, and frog-like. And when I saw the picture, I thought, well, golly, the face is a frog face of the man. But if you look at that building, it looks like a face with
Hmm.
2 eyes and a nose. And so I really think because the drawing that I did at the bottom, where I said face-like, was pretty much like that face, more so than the man's face.
Hmm.
So I gave it an A and a B because he has a face, but I really
Mhm.
think I was seeing more the building face, and I think I I saw that as looking like a snake or a frog
Okay.
with the two beady eyes. But the very first drawing that I saw was this gaping opening, and I saw it as having a lip around it. So I was looking down in and I wanted to go volcano. When I put that aside, I didn't even write it down. I didn't let myself go there. I just took it as a gaping hole and that I was looking down in, and then I got the color red. So that would definitely be the building. And I felt bumpy, and especially after you enlarge it, you know, it's, I like the larger picture because it's much easier to judge. But
You can always do that yourself by clicking and then expanding it. So, okay,
okay.
keep going.
And then I don't know, I kind of had a block for a little while, and I had to kind of just stop, and then I got the second the second drawing down at the bottom that was more this kind of, it was really hard to see compared to the first one. Was really, I was really able to see it for quite a while, and the, you know, develop. This other one just kind of faded in and out pretty fast, but it was some kind of a face with the 2 eyes but not necessarily a nose. And and uh and so I had already thought frog-like in the beginning, and so then I thought snake, and when I judged it, I looked at that arm and thought, okay, the arm could be a snake, so I gave that a B. But then as I was looking at it after I did the scan, I think that the face of, you know, that face of that building could be the eyes of a snake too. So I actually put an A and a B on that, but I didn't count that one. So in the count that's there, I didn't count the one that says snake. Everything else I counted. And up at the top, feathery, I put that as a B because that was kind of like his hair. And furry, I put A and B because both of them seem to have texture. And frog-like, A and B, just because of the face. So up at the top,
Yeah.
and then
Okay.
the the mouth, I gave that to A and B, but
No,
but the mouth was more, that hole was what I was calling a mouth, so that really related more to A. Anyway, I gave it a
okay.
4 and a 2. I think I feel a lot more strongly towards A, but I don't know that I have enough on the transcript to call it any more than a 4.
Well, also, everything that you said shows a lot of uncertainty. I mean, again, I think just listening to all of your words, you are really pushing for A, for better or worse. I mean, you say face-like. That's what you
Yeah.
wrote down in your transcript. This
Right.
is more face-like than this.
And that's right, it is.
Okay.
But it was the eyes I was seeing, kind of wide apart eyes, and I put it as face-like because I didn't know what else to put.
Okay.
But
You know, you don't have
eyes
to
were
put
not
anything.
close together like a person. They were wide apart, more like a frog or a snake.
Yeah. But a living being was the sense, or, and this is so important, or was the jump from the image to frog-like, even face-like, an AOL? Was it intellectual? Notice
Yeah,
if
that's
you
what I didn't know.
right, and that's hard to know. That's one of the greatest challenges, because imagine if you could know. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Was it
right.
coming up from the subconscious versus did the intellectual say it? A shape versus, oh, but I do have a sense of it being alive and maybe a face. Anyway, bottom line on this, I mean, I think this maybe could be a 3.5. I have trouble giving it a 4.
Okay.
Just because you had to go through so much explanation. You know what I mean?
But the first drawing was definitely that window. That's what I was seeing, was that window with.
This one right here.
Called it
Well, that
lip.
and that is strong. In fact,
And I tried to draw what I was seeing, but it,
right.
you know, even that reflection on the bottom of the lip, I was seeing all of that.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I just couldn't draw it right.
Well, and that may be why you were leaning in that direction, and it may turn out to be true. Again,
right.
This is none of us know.
I just don't know that I got a wagerable one on either one. But I definitely didn't get the idea of snow and cold and being in Alaska. You know, I mean, dog sled races are just part of Alaska. You know, so.
Right. Do you think you did get wagerable or not on A? You put a 4 for A. Would you be willing to wager a little bit on A or not?
Oh, I might.
Yeah.
I'm hoping the Warriors are going to win. So you picked the wrong team because you picked the team that I want to win. You know, I'm a Northern California girl.
No,
so,
but we don't know yet. We don't know yet which one of these.
We don't know which is which. That's
exactly.
True.
So that fortunately is irrelevant, and we do that on purpose. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So we got one last one from Jerry.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Evelyn.
Yes.
Okay, Jerry.
Okay.
3.5.
The first thing, my Gestalt thing here is what I saw mostly was that looked like a little spaceship with jellyfish underneath. That's sort of the first impression I had. The zigzaggy thing is just getting my fingers moving.
Okay.
Okay, I guess starting at the top, smooth. I sort of think of a dome as being smooth at the top. Colors, red is the only one distinguishable to A. The rest could really be in both, except for green isn't anywhere. Metallic isn't anywhere. Going down, cool, I sort of had a cool feeling, but that could be a cool one, either one really there, but more towards the B. Humming, nah, there's no humming anywhere. And dimensions, vastness, no, I don't feel that in either picture. And same thing with nothingness, I don't feel that in either picture either. I did get a distinct impression at the top where it's got that little archway, the double arch. That sort of looks like the tent to me. And then below that where it says people, I just got like one person there. There's only one, but I thought maybe those little lines, zigzags could be people. But definitely the one that looks like right next to the word people, that looks like a dome with a little subdome, and the little zigzags could be that part of the building with the stairs and stuff. I saw 3 lines going across, and there are 3 lines on A going across the bottom part of the building. X sort of is the tent where the yellow and the gray come together. I don't know, that's just sort of pushing it. I did have the distinct impression of a small darting light or something going from one side to the other horizontally. I saw a plus sign and an X, a plus sign, but I don't see that anywhere so, in either one. And the zigzags I see as those at the bottom where it says A below the plus sign, I see as A, but I had more relation to the photo site A, which is why I gave that a 3.5. Right.
And I also noticed you put down here, and a lot of people do this, the count.
Yeah.
Again, as a guidance for overall, you have to come up with this TARG scale, which is more feeling based in terms of how you feel about the matches. Okay, yeah, I don't have any problem with that. And again, I find the sounds interesting, but humming.
I don't see any.
No, but what I was going to say, it certainly it doesn't fit here, but it might even fit here. You know, inside there's an awful lot of humming that goes on. But leaving it blank was just right. But anyway, that's what crossed my mind. Okay, very good.
I did have an arch up by the word people. I have an arch, but being that I live in a house full of dyslexics, I often get things backwards now.
Well, no, but that's important. I'm glad you brought that up. Remote viewers, one of the things we know about them, orientation. For whatever reason, the communication channel often gets orientation wrong. So, I mean, that doesn't always help. And sometimes because it makes it easy, but to give that an A, I have no problem with that at all.
I do have one question. What does over and under mean when you're tasking?
In the sporting world, if there's a game of two teams, you add up the score of both teams. So in the basketball game, the score might be 90 versus 110. So the total score would be 200 in that example. The bookie will put out a potential wager where he will set a line at 205, 205 and a half. Basketball games, you know, have lots of points. So it's the sum of total points in a basketball game scored by both teams. And then he'll put out one number and you could go over that number or under that number. It's a very popular bet because it's nearly 50-50. Notice it takes out if one team is better than the other team.
So it doesn't really matter whether I knew what that meant when we're doing the targets?
Exactly. In fact, it's just as well you forget all of that stuff and you just get into a quiet, meditative-like place and listen.
Because I've been totally wrong every time. So.
Oh, that's interesting. And that happens sometimes, and then it gets turned around. You might ask yourself, your sub why, and just try to learn something each time. That's all.
Yeah.
And spend time at the feedback session. That's the time to do the learning about, oh, gee, I really should have given this one more weight, or hey, I didn't do that right, but let me work on it now and open up my communication channel better for colors or shapes or whatever, you know. Okay, very good. Thank you. I think that was the last one.
Marty?
Oh, no, here's Farusa. Good. Okay. Yeah?
You found it.
Oh, okay. Very good. Here you are. Okay. So, yeah, talk to us about this one. It's one page, huh? Good.
No, it's actually 3 pages.
Okay. Okay, the scores you gave were 4 to A and 2.5 to B. Why don't you tell me why you gave the 4 to A?
Well, I thought that there was
Can you get closer, a little closer to your mic?
Where is my mic? Is this better?
Yeah, that is better.
Okay. The reason why I gave A more marks was because for A, I got dark place, big object, dark color,
Big object.
red material, but floaty was B. And then I have a drawing of a dark object, which kind of looks like a two-part dark object, which I expect the to have been like something behind that dome. However, some of the things could be both, like tunneling and cool grays and some blues. So those could be both A and B. I felt like there was bleed through with the floaty material because I did get a material emotionally, as I look back on it, the material was kind of very much like the tent material.
Hmm.
So I felt like that might be bleed through. But the dark place, the big object, the dark color, grays and some blues could be either. The outside could be either. You could go in there, could be either A and B. Inside, you could go inside there. I have that on the second page. And so I gave it more A's than B's. And I don't know what happened here because the session that you got doesn't have my A and B marked on it. And I did mark it, like next to dark place, I marked an A.
Yeah, maybe in some strange color, or you did this before you put the AB on it. In any case, I understood everything you said. The thing I want to comment on, you used a word that newbies would not understand, which is called bleed through. And I would suggest, and that idea is, you see, you only know if it's bleed through at the feedback session, right?
Right.
Your feeling of what it is correct. When you're judging, you need to judge it intellectually from here. Bleed through is a concept, sometimes a stronger word for real strong bleed through is displacement, is at feedback time, you know what the correct target is. So Farousia here was thinking, this is the correct target, but I felt like this cloth was here. See, that would be bleed through if this were the correct target. We don't know that now. And I'm going to tell you something else. At feedback time, if this is the correct target, I don't even want you to think about this whole discussion because it's irrelevant. All you do is pay attention to the feedback target. Bleed through, displacement, that whole concept, which is real. People will draw the wrong picture even when they never see that picture, and they'll do a very good job of it. The capabilities of consciousness are like infinite. It has access to everything. Our job is to learn how to get it to focus. And guess what? Focus on the feedback target, period. During judging, since you don't know what the right answer is, you just need to judge as independently as possible, assuming either one could be the final feedback target. So they're both possible feedback targets. Okay. Very good. No, I understand, and I still think there is more for the structure. I mean, this stuff here is very strong. I too don't know what to do with the tunneling, but it could be looking through the windows or something else. But I have no problem with that. Okay, thank you. And let's just verify that that was the last one. Okay, it is. So now, each of you, congratulations, have completed the remote viewing session and the judging. And the next step would be, if you're doing this on your own, to then put in your confidence rankings in there. I have been keeping this table, which I hope is accurate. If you see any errors in here, obviously let me know, so check out your own. But what I'm going to do now is make the group prediction, which is what goes into that table, and we're keeping track of whether this will work. And what I tend to do is mark anything over 3.5 as the highest. It's been my experience, and that's what I feel like doing now. There are two things that I think are very important, and this is why it's important to judge accurately, because your group manager does this as well. Notice there's only one here unless I'm missing it over.
You're missing, Marty?
Yeah.
This is Lynn. You're missing my scores.
Which one are you? I'm sorry.
Lynn.
Oh, okay. I missed them completely. Even though we
Yeah.
talked about it, I was trying to. Okay, tell me what they are.
A, I think, was like 2.5 and B was 4.
2.5 and 4. Okay, that is, now we have 2. And then the 3.5s, I'll put, I mean, it's something to pay note of, especially if there were a really strong amount. I'll put those in gray. This is yellow. Again, this is to give an overall feeling. Some people, and I know John does this, likes to average. No, I think there's actually a function called average. Yeah. So, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but let me just see. We can average. Let's see if that works. Didn't like my average. Okay. But we can certainly do a sum. And the same thing here. Okay, and then we can do the average by just doing this divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I've moved away, well, I bet I can do this one in my head. I've moved away from wanting to be quite as analytical as I started. I mean, I'm a scientist and I keep the statistics and I do all that stuff very analytically. Yet when it comes to the judging and all that, there's just an intuitive piece of it because it has to do with the strengths of them and all of that. And so, yeah, I look at the numbers too, and you can see the numbers are higher for A. There are a lot more yellows for A. And so as the group manager, I think I would go for A. So the prediction. Now, does anybody else, please comment on that. Prediction is photo site A. Okay, so. And this, I should really say it's the group prediction that I am making. Lots of times in the individual groups, I will tell people that if they really feel like John may very well, and I would encourage him if we do a wager, and I'm going to get into that now, the wager, he might very well want a wager on his side because he had a very strong one. But nevertheless, we put out a group prediction, and that is photo site A. Now, how do we put that in? We put that in just like you would put it in. We go here, and I'm looking at all of those numbers. I guess I can bring them back. And I would never use the average, but the sense of the high ones is, this is, I don't feel bad calling that a 5, right? You look at all of these, and I'm going to put here as the group, seeing this as a 5 because I tend to look at the better ones. And the same thing here. This is 2, but notice there are a lot which are not in a high level. So it's not like I want to do a 4.5. I would probably make this wagerable because they're too high scores. So I'm going to put it in as a 3.5. And again, that's being a judge saying, yeah, I see 2 high ones, but I see a lot of others that are not high. So the key thing is I've done this. We had 10 viewers. 10 viewers. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 strong on PSA. Oop. 2 strong on PSB. So that's all, again, as an individual, you would have to do. You do your judging. You need to put in the photo site between 0 and 7. And then you click submit. And now, for the first time, we'll know which way the prediction goes because we do not know. 10 viewers. So we repeated here what I wrote. We've got the coordinate. We've got the 2 CRs I put. And now it says your personal prediction is a yes. Okay. So
What was it that we were predicting again?
I think it says it.
The golden.
No,
I see
okay. It. We'll go back.
The Warriors
It's at the bottom left. I see it. Yeah.
Here's the event. Okay. So will the Golden State Warriors win the 2016-2017 NBA championship? In fact, let me put that prediction right into our set here because we have now made, you now see how this stuff gets in here, right? No way to cheat, nice public record, and it's in as a yes, and I'll save it. Okay, now, like with all ARV and even mission-oriented RV predictions, you have to decide if you want to take action. Was things strong enough to take action? So in this case, I feel it was. You know, you hold back a little bit because there was some strong ones on the other side, but nevertheless, it's time to think about that, and I will show you. So the prediction is yes, and let me show you where I found the bookmaker who did this, and we'll even see what they're saying now, because this changes in time. So I happen to use bookmaker.com, 5 Dimes. I don't do this very much. Most of my focus is actually on the financial, but we have groups that do this, and I manage one of them. So, in fact, okay, so here, and they're so good because they're really crisp questions. They have clear yes and no's. And here's NBA futures. So that's where I found that because I wanted something. Now, what's going on here? Oh, it's got to be down here because I wanted, here it is. Will the Golden State Warriors win? No, not the Western Conference. We want the total. Here it is, the championship. Notice you can wager on so much of this. We could have asked a different question. This was the question we asked. Will the Golden State Warriors win the 2016-17 NBA championship? Very clear. It's either a yes or a no. The minus 255, as I said before, see, this is not a near 50-50 proposition. This is one where, notice it's not the over-under as we discussed before. This is one where the odds makers think that the Golden State Warriors will indeed win. They think the answer will be yes. And this sort of gives their confidence level. Again, measured on the basis of 100, which would be the neutral place where, but based on that, I would have to wager $255 to win 100, and that's where we're going. But if the answer had been no, and that's the plus here versus the minus, so this is the way the odds makers communicate. Hey, it's all about communication. The odds makers here, since they're saying no, they don't believe, they really believe the Golden State Warriors will win, so the yes is correct. They're willing to let you put up $100, and if you win, you get your $100 back plus 206. So I think that's called like 2-to-1 odds, something like that. But there you go. So what I'm going to do is mark that one because we said yes, and then you hit continue.
Do you have to bet $100?
No. In fact, that's what I'm going to show you right here.
Okay.
You can bet, I think, as little as 5 or 10 or something like that here. And I am going to wager 10 just to show you. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to wager 10 to show you that you can scale it and to show you the meaning. Hopefully this will come up now. So I'm risking, notice I had a choice of wager or the amount to win. I'm using the risk amount, so I'm risking $10. Okay, and then I hit continue. To win 392. Oh, okay, wait, I know what I did wrong. As a demo, but you can see it's much smaller. It's smaller by that ratio. Had I put in $25, I'm willing to put in $25. Let me do that. Notice nothing's happened yet because I haven't confirmed it. So let me go back and let's do this again because I really want you to understand, because the wagering for many people is the brand new part of this. And, you know, as we're going to Vegas in June and it becomes fun, so this is part of educating you all with that too. Okay, so wager amount, I'm going to put in 25.5. So that's scaled down from this number by a factor of 10. And make sure I have the right wager. I can't believe it. I'm having so much trouble. I must have done the 2-win. I apologize for this. This is obviously a waste of your time. But I do want to get this right. And stay with me here. You guys can help me with this. Watch me and make sure I'm doing this right. Golden State Warriors, here's a minus 255. I hit continue. Now the wager amount, did I not have that before?
No,
You
you
had
have.
risk amount.
Okay,
before.
exactly.
And
So it's what I said. If I were to wager 255, I'd get 100 back. If I wager 25.5, I should get 10. Let's see. Hopefully it'll work this time.
Marty, choose risk. Risk amount.
Gosh darn it.
You're
right. It seemed right. I'm willing to risk, like if I'm willing to risk 250. You could tell I don't do this very often. I'm focusing on the other ones, guys. But let's see if this goes to the futures. Did I recommend? No, I didn't remember that. You're absolutely right. Thank you. NBA futures.
We know the date of the game that we're talking
No,
about?
nobody knows because some of the games could go 7, some can go 6, so they haven't put out the schedule yet. But it'll be more than a month. Okay, so where is it again? 255. So it's here. And remember, I said you're risking 255. That's the way to think about it, to win 10. Risk amount. So all I can risk is 25.
You said 0.5, right?
Okay, I'm going to stop here, right? Close enough? If I had put it 25.5, I think you agree this would come up to 10. And so that demonstrates, and it lets me verify. And usually it says the full game here, but TNT must be enough. It's clearly the right one. So I'm going to confirm. And I just put in a wager that'll sit there for a month until the outcome is known. Okay, so we acted on our precognition, and frankly, I think that's important with the caveat that you need to know how good you are. That's why keeping statistics are so important in all of this.
I'm not sure why you would risk $25 to win $10.
Because it's not a 50-50 proposition. The bookmakers, and I trust them, they are so good at this. You have no idea how good they are at this. The bookmakers are just simply very good at this. And this time I'm saying that they're going to be right, that their judgment is correct, and I'm going with their judgment. So it's really as simple as that.
I think they're going to be wrong, Marty.
I know you do, because you went the other way. And hey, you can get a better than 50-50 odds chance if you want to do that, John. You know, you know how to do the wagering. But I'm making that judgment not because I went through a analysis, you know, a technical analysis of the teams and all that, which is what they did. I did it based on you. I did it on because most of you were going with the yes answer, and period. So that was why I was willing to risk $25. And historically, you are in group situations like this better than chance. And so I'm willing to, up to now we've been 80% with the same procedure. Whether that'll continue or not, only time will tell.
When do you find out the results?
When the championship is over, and that'll be more than a month. They don't have a schedule because it depends on, they have a lot of interim games now. They're in the playoffs, Western playoffs, Eastern playoffs, Northwestern playoffs. I don't know what they're doing, but they're in the playoff stage. And depending on how long those games take, because they're usually 7 games as well. So we're talking about 7 games to the playoff winner, but it might happen sooner than that if there are only 4 games. So the dates are not set yet. Now,
thank you.
Let me try to close this off and bring in another term I haven't used, but it's an important term, and that is getting to the point where you feel confident. And sometimes I say fake it, you know, go in and get to another place where you had felt confident, and get into that place when you do your remote viewing session and when you do your feedback session. But it's also good for the intellect to feel it. Obviously, it makes it easier. And that's why it is so important to keep statistics on what you're doing. You wager on your own predictions when your data shows that you're doing reasonably well. And you might even modulate the amount that you wager. So this issue of getting confident has both an intellectual side with real data and a sort of intuitive side where you can get into a place where you say, I have confidence that I'm going to do well on this prediction. I have confidence I'm going to do well in the future. And it's like the fact that you're doing this at all is a sign that you do have confidence. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in this game. So be confident, feel confident, and enjoy your journey. I can't show you now. I suppose I could, but I'm not going to. The way we keep data, the newbies will see it as soon as they start doing feedback, but we keep charts. All the things which get written into the text boxes are saved, so you have the ability to really learn from all of your past predictions and outcomes. And all of this, more and more, just in my mind, and I hope in many of your minds, comes down to really living healthier, wealthier, and wiser lives. The wealth comes in because we are focusing on applications involving money, but wealth is deeper than just the money. Wealth includes mostly what is your intention on how to use the money, and you need to feel good about that. You need to feel that you're going to be using it in ways that are going to make you feel good, and hopefully many others feel good too, because the spiritual part of this is very fundamental. We are all one. The health is sort of obvious. Without physical, mental, spiritual health, you almost don't have anything else. I think you just do this in a healthy fashion, stay healthy, and I think doing this enhances health because the meditation part, the cool down part, is really a very healthy aspect of what's going on. And then with all this, I really do believe we're becoming wiser. We're really understanding the universe a lot better by getting into consciousness and precognition. I thank you all for coming here. Are there any questions, comments?
Hello, Marty.
Uh-huh.
It's Vince here. I'm a newbie.
Hi, Vince.
Hi. I just got on. I thought it was at 11:30 Pacific time, which is 1:30 or 2:30 Eastern time.
No.
Did I miss something?
Yeah, it was 9 o'clock Pacific time. I don't know where the 30 came from, but if you go back to the emails, I was pretty clear on that.
Okay.
I thought.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm sorry you missed it. This will be and is being recorded.
Okay.
And I will have the link out probably by tomorrow, so you can listen to the whole thing then.
Okay, and is it every Wednesday at 9 o'clock Eastern?
No, 9 o'clock Pacific.
Sorry, 9 o'clock. Okay, yeah. Oh, sorry, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Other questions, comments?
Hey, Marty, this is Steve. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hi, Steve.
Hey, I didn't submit my drawing, although I did come up with the same that you did. But just a note about the date of the game, you won't know whether you win until the final game, but you may know whether you lose, because if Golden State gets knocked out prior to that final game, obviously you will know then that you didn't win.
That is true, and I did think about that when I did this, and I did it anyway. So if this turns out to be less than a month, so be it.
Fair enough.
I mean, you know, what am I going to do? We live in the real world. Okay, anybody else? Okay, so I thank you all for joining me here. I just enjoyed doing this, as I think you probably pick up. And all of you keep precogging.